Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. We've got lots of news to get through today. The big story of the day is little Greta Thunberg from Sweden, the little girl who has been speaking around the world and at the United Nations. Her parents took her out of school because they cared about her well-being so much, but she's complaining about it to the United Nations, talking about climate change and stuff like that. So, first of all, a Fox presenter has been banned from the network for good, forever, because he called her he characterized her in a particular manner. We'll get into it in depth in a moment. Now, this whole thing has reminded me of another little girl who turned out to be a child actor. Just before we invaded Iraq, there was a little girl who testified before Congress, and it all reminds me of that. Anytime the cabal has something that they want done, they trot out a child actor, a little girl, to tug at our heartstrings. So we're going to take a look at all of those things. Now, also, Judicial Watch has been doing some heavy lifting yet again, and they found some interesting information in the McCabe memo, and it confirms that Rod Rosenstein was looking to set up the president by wearing a wire. Now, also from Judicial Watch, Hillary Clinton is seeking to withhold a 6-page memo, which details the deletion of her emails. And then finally, Rudy Giuliani is out there talking about the Joe Biden controversy with Ukraine. He says it's way deeper than we ever could have imagined. Money laundering, everything. There's documents, there's tapes. It is all on record. Joe Biden is done. All right, guys, we're going to get into this and more, and we'll be right back after a quick word from my sponsor. Joint health and mobility is not permanent. As the human body ages, there is a natural decline in bone mass and density along with reduced flexibility and mobility, which has a negative impact on your quality of life. Say goodbye to achy knees, stiff shoulders, back pain, sore elbows, and wrist irritation, and feel 20 to 30 years younger and pain-free. Reclaim your youth with Joint Pain Hack now. Joint Pain Hack reduces inflammation, restores worn-out joints, improves mobility and flexibility, supports joint and muscle health, supports cellular protection and repair, soothes aching muscles. Every single ingredient inside Joint Pain Hack has been clinically proven to help relieve joint pain and different types of inflammation. On top of that, Joint Pain Hack actually contains the perfect dosages that have been used in peer-reviewed studies. Unlike other brands that just throw in low doses of all sorts of ingredients to help sell their product, when in reality it won't do anything for you. With Joint Pain Hack, you can feel confident that you'll have the best defense against any sort of pain. So don't wait until it's too late. Start feeding your body the nutrients it deserves. Visit www.relaxthepain.com. That's www.relaxthepain.com and support your health. All right, starting out, Fox News has apologized to Greta and their audience, and they've banned Michael Knowles from their channel after he described disturbed child Greta Thunberg as mentally ill. This is the characterization by Michael Knowles and not anyone here on this network. Greta Thunberg is a 16-year-old with Asperger's and global warming activist from Sweden. She also suffers from depression and anxiety disorder that's got to be very tough for a little girl like her. Despite her challenges and disabilities, her parents, the international left, and George Soros have propped her up and sent her across the Atlantic Ocean in a boat to lecture global leaders on global warming junk science. It's clear from video that the left is putting a huge amount of pressure on this poor girl, and she is not holding up well. Let's go ahead and take a look at this video right here so you can get an idea of what Greta's mental state is. The poor girl is being used.
So let's not wait any longer, let's do it now. Yes?
Poor girl. She does not look comfortable.
Okay, so we've got time for some...
Let this little girl go home. Stop using her to prop up your own agenda. This is disgusting. You can tell from the look on her face, she doesn't really want to be there. It seems like her parents and this Soros organization have set this up and brought her all the way across the ocean so that she can lecture people and make them feel bad as if she has really any idea about what's going on with global warming. It's junk. The science behind it is junk. It's been proven to be a hoax. All right. Now, I'm probably going to be called fake news for saying that, but it's the absolute honest-to-God truth. The information came out years ago, doctored information, doctored temperature data, and it was revealed in emails by the climate scientists themselves. Okay, so now we have this poor girl who clearly has a couple of problems, and they're making her go out and speak in front of all these people. I find it absolutely deplorable. Now, the left does not care about this poor child. They are exploiting her to push their socialism. Monday night on The Story with Harris Faulkner, the Daily Wire's Michael Knowles came out and accused Greta Thunberg of being mentally ill. The liberal guest on the show, Chris Hahn, who comes on and lies to Fox's audience when he's invited on, erupted after Knowles accused Greta Thunberg of being mentally ill. Following the segment, Fox News immediately banned Knowles from further appearances. You are not allowed to state the obvious on Fox News anymore, and Fox News apologized for Michael Knowles' statement. Now, he is not saying anything that's not true. This little girl clearly has a couple of mental disabilities. Asperger's is not necessarily mental illness, but depression and anxiety, they do fall into that category. If you just look at the DSM-4, 5, 6, whatever it is that they're up to right now, that classifies you under those categories. Now, there is nothing wrong with being mentally ill or having a mental illness, but there seems to be some type of stigma attached to it. If you are to say that someone has a mental illness, then clearly you can get banned from a news channel. Now, if you have a physical illness, it's the same thing as having a mental illness. It's just a diagnosis inside your brain. So what we need to do is to be honest about the things that we're talking about and not try to whitewash these things. I feel like it's a pretty fair thing to say, and I feel like it's a pretty fair thing to ask. No disrespect to little Greta Thunberg, but I do have some harsh words for her parents. Now, President Trump is out there talking about Greta. Here is a picture of her at the United Nations. She does not look happy, but President Trump says she seems like a very happy young girl. President Trump commented on Swedish teen climate change activist Greta Thunberg in a late-night tweet on Monday, tweeting over a video of her melodramatic UN speech. She seems like a very happy young girl looking forward to a bright and wonderful future. So nice to see. And here is the tweet right here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the video from little Greta Thunberg. All right, so this is 4.5 minutes long. We're just going to listen to a portion of it.
My message is that we'll be watching you. This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones.
A little melodramatic. She seems to be trying to conjure up some tears, some sadness. She's obviously trying to go for an emotional reaction from these people. But she's right. She should be back in school. She should be across the ocean. There's absolutely no reason that her parents needed to bring her over here. This is clearly a manufactured event, and they are trying to tug at the heartstrings of the world using this little 16-year-old girl. It's just not right. Now, earlier in the day, the 16-year-old Thunberg was recorded by the media reacting angrily when Trump entered an area at the UN as she was trying to leave. Security moved Thunberg back away from Trump, who did not acknowledge her presence. In contrast, former President Barack Obama met with Thunberg in D.C. last week and posted a photo of the meeting. The media laughably claimed the scowling drama queen Thunberg stared down Trump. Let's take a look at this video from CBS. She's just scowling. That's all she's doing. And here is a photo of Thunberg meeting with Barry. Any criticism of Thunberg is being dealt with harshly by the media and the left. A guest on Fox News earlier Monday, Michael Knowles, was banned, as we talked about in the last article. Now, Wikipedia says this about Thunberg's conditions. Thunberg says she first heard about climate change in 2011 when she was 8 years old and could not understand why so little was being done about it. 3 years later, she became depressed and lethargic, stopped talking and eating, and was eventually diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and selective mutism. While acknowledging that her diagnosis has limited me before, she does not view her autism as an illness and has instead called it her superpower. I would agree with that. Autism can be a superpower. We all know the power of weaponized autism, but I think that Greta is being pointed in the wrong direction. Now, that hoax, it was all a hoax. A little girl was seen crying in a viral video at a global warming rally, but she's a child actress. She was just a child prop for the left. The international left used innocent children last weekend to push their climate change extremism. Tens of thousands of children were left out of school so they could go protest against capitalism and global warming. As we reported on Monday, one terrified little girl in Australia couldn't even talk to reporters about climate change without crying. She broke down in tears while talking to reporters about climate change junk science. Let's go ahead and look at it.
And I'm so concerned with the fact that if they're not going to change anything, then what's going to happen to humankind? What's going to happen to the whole world if no one does anything?
That's heartbreaking. Until you learn she's an actress. That was not your typical emotional teen. The girl in the video is an Aussie actress. Now, from Michael Smith News, the girl even has her own profile at an online talent agency. And there's even a video of the little girl acting at her school. Let's see how she does.
So I reached in, felt around, and pulled out the obstruction.
That was a clip. That was a scene from Seinfeld. She did a pretty good job. With the left, nothing is ever what it seems. Everything is staged to manipulate the masses, and that is pure evil. So now, in less than a week, we've got 2 instances of the left using children to prop up their agenda. Now, as promised, we're going to go back in time and look and see when it was actually the right side of the cabal that used a child actress to lie to Congress and send us to war in Iraq, a war that we are still in. Now, this is a clip here from Democracy Now! They exposed this some time ago. I believe this is actually from 2018. But let's go ahead and take a look at the video of the little girl speaking in Congress.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, my name is Naira, and I just came out of Kuwait. My sister, with my 5-day-old nephew, traveled across the desert to safety. There was no milk available for the baby in Kuwait. They barely escaped when their car was stuck in the desert sand, and help came from Saudi Arabia. I stayed behind and wanted to do something for my country. The second week after an invasion, I volunteered at the Al-Adan hospital with 12 other women who wanted to help as well. I was the youngest volunteer. The other women were from 20 to 30 years old. While I was there, I saw the Iraqi soldiers come into the hospital with guns. They took the babies out of the incubators, and left the children to die on the cold floor.
All right, we're going to stop there. This is a heart-wrenching story. But again, it turns out that this little girl was acting. What she's describing never actually took place. But it was stuff like this that sent us to war in Iraq. Remember weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist? Well, this is another thing that didn't exist. Iraqi soldiers allowing babies to die because they stole their incubators. It's a ridiculous story because what do the Iraqi soldiers need with baby incubators? It just didn't happen. But this is another excellent example of how the left likes to take children, use them to put on a fake narrative and then tug at our heartstrings. So we need to keep an eye out, because obviously they are pushing hard for us to do something on climate change. Climate change may be a real thing in terms of natural climate change and the way that the sun hits the earth and in warming and cooling. We were told back in the 70s and 80s that we were going to go into a new ice age. Then it was global warming, and now it's just climate change. So then whatever way the climate changes, they're going to be able to point to it and say, look, it's climate change and it's our fault. This is just another example of the way the left likes to manipulate us. Keep your eyes open and be on the lookout for any other instances of this, because it seems like they are ramping up their efforts right now. All right, so from Judicial Watch, that McCabe FBI memo has confirmed Rod Rosenstein's plot to wear a wire to oust President Trump. Then Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein began plotting Trump's removal shortly after FBI Director Comey was fired. The New York Times reported this last September, citing memos that were penned by then acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe. Conservative watchdog group Judicial Watch obtained McCabe's two-page memo through a FOIA lawsuit, which details a contemporaneous recollection of a meeting McCabe had with Rosenstein on May 16, 2016, just one day before Rosenstein appointed Robert Mueller as special counsel to investigate Trump-Russia collusion, another failed, phony left narrative. McCabe detailed how Rosenstein offered to wear a wire into the Oval Office to collect additional evidence on the president's true intentions. McCabe wrote in the memo that Rosenstein said he could easily wear a wire because he was not searched when he entered the White House. This meeting took place in Rosenstein's office and included Rosenstein, Deputy Assistant Attorney General for Intelligence Tashina Gar, and Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General Jim Crowell. McCabe also wrote in his memo that he approved the opening of an investigation of President Donald Trump to investigate allegations of possible collusion between the president and the Russian government, possible obstruction of justice related to the firing of FBI Director Comey, and possible conspiracy to obstruct justice. This is already public knowledge, and that was reported last year. Now, here is the text of the redacted memo that has been given to us by Judicial Watch. All right, so Rosenstein says that he met with DAG Rod Rosenstein and that Tashina Gar and Jim Crowell were present. He says, I began by telling him that today I approve the opening of an investigation of President Trump. I explained that the purpose of the investigation was to investigate allegations of possible collusion between the president and the Russian government, possible obstruction of justice related to the firing of Director Comey, and possible conspiracy to obstruct justice. The DAG questioned what I meant by collusion, and I explained that I was referring to the investigation of any potential leaks between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. I explained that counterintelligence investigations of this sort were meant to uncover any existence of any threat to national security, as well as whether or not criminal conduct had occurred. Regarding the obstruction issues, I made clear that our predication was based not only on the president's comments last week to reporter Lester Holt that he connected the firing of the director to the FBI's Russia investigation, but also on the several concurring comments the president made to Director Comey over the last few months. These comments included the president's requests for assurances of loyalty, statements about the Russia investigation and the investigation of General Flynn. I also informed the DAG that Director Comey preserved his recollections of these interactions in a series of contemporaneously drafted memos. Finally, I informed the DAG that as a result of this role in the matter, I thought he would be a witness in the case. The DAG then related his experiences at the White House on Monday, 5/8/17. He began by stating that he had the feeling that the decision to fire the director had been made before he arrived. At the White House, he first met with White House General Counsel Don McGahn, who told him that the president had drafted a letter to Director Comey that McGahn did not want the president to send. Shortly thereafter, they met with the president and AG Jeff Sessions and possibly others in the Oval Office. President Trump told the DAG he had written a letter to Director Comey, asked the DAG if he had seen the letter, and instructed McGahn to provide the DAG with a copy. The DAG described the letter to me as being a long list, possibly several pages, of the president's complaints with Director Comey. Among these complaints was a discussion about the FBI's Russia investigation, as well as a paragraph about the FBI deputy director. The DAG indicated to me that he retained a copy of the president's letter. The DAG said he told the president, redacted. The president then directed the DAG to write a memo explaining the reasoning for Director Comey's termination and that the DAG should include Russia. The DAG said to the president that he did not think this was a good idea and that his memo did not need to include Russia. The president replied that he understood, but that he was asking the DAG to include Russia anyway. As our conversation continued, the DAG proposed that he could potentially wear a recording device into the Oval Office to collect additional evidence on the president's true intentions. He said he thought this might be possible because he was not searched when he entered the White House. I told him that I would discuss the opportunity with my investigative team and get back to him. We discussed the issue of appointing a special counsel to oversee the FBI's Russia investigation. The DAG said he has 2 candidates ready, one of whom could start immediately. That would be Mueller. Redacted. The DAG said that he left a copy of the delegation with Acting Assistant Attorney General for National Security Dana Boente to execute in the DAG's absence if the DAG were suddenly removed from his position. He anticipated that he may be terminated when he puts the special counsel in place in light of the president's anger with AG Sessions when the AG recused himself from the Russia investigation. The DAG further stated that he was told that others heard the president tell the AG, "You were supposed to protect me." He says this incredible memo details the conflicted and conniving coup effort against President Trump. Now, it's astonishing and shocking that McCabe thought he could have the FBI conduct a counterintelligence operation on the president, and Rosenstein thought it would be appropriate to wear a wire to secretly record President Trump in the Oval Office. That the DOJ and FBI sat on this smoking gun for a year shows the need for urgent house cleaning at those agencies. It is also important to note that in June, just 1 month after McCabe penned this memo detailing Rosenstein's plot to wear a wire and oust President Trump via the 25th Amendment, both Rosenstein and McCabe signed the final and 4th FISA warrant on Carter Page. 20 pages of the June 2017 Carter Page FISA application are still redacted. I wonder what they say. They were willing to do anything to get rid of President Trump, and that is why we're seeing all of this stuff cataloged right here. They wanted to keep a record, and they wanted to try to make it look like they were working by the book. But how many times do you think people like Rosenstein, like McCabe, like Comey ended up doing some nasty thing off the books and they never bothered to document it because they didn't want to get caught? Well, they thought once again they were not going to get caught. But by documenting their efforts to remove President Trump, they have thereby sentenced themselves. And now it's up to the AG to do something about it. Where are you, Bill Barr? All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this clip from Tom Fitton. He's talking about this whole situation, and he does get a little bit heated.
Comey was spying on Trump. Well, the reason he was writing the memos was to create a record so that he could destroy him. I'm paraphrasing, admittedly, but that's pretty clear what was going on. This report confirms they went in to confront him with that ambush interview because they were trying to make a case against him. You had the FBI director under Obama playing spy. We're talking about spying on the Trump campaign, spying on President-elect Trump, spying on President Trump. Comey was the chief spy, and he was designated as such by Barack Obama because they met about this very issue a day or two before in the Oval Office with Barack Obama, Biden, Susan Rice, all the king's horses, all the king's men in there. And Comey was the go-to guy.
That's right. Comey was the go-to guy, and they have been plotting and planning to remove President Trump since the very beginning. This right here was a contingency plan if President Trump got into office, and he got into office. He was able to get there, and he's been very, very successful ever since, and it's making them crazy. I cannot wait to see these people brought to justice, you guys. Everything that they did was unprecedented and just absolutely illegal. All right, now also from Judicial Watch, Hillary Clinton is seeking to withhold a 6-page memo describing her lawyer's review and deletion of her emails. Judicial Watch previously sought a deposition from Hillary Clinton, and last month the court gave the watchdog group additional discovery and witnesses on the email case. The judge wanted Judicial Watch to shake the tree on a newly uncovered potential Clinton email trove and gave Hillary 30 days to oppose their request to question her under oath. Hillary's lawyers responded to Judicial Watch on late Monday evening and sought to withhold a 6-page memo describing her attorney's deletion of her emails. Mrs. Clinton's attorneys filed opposition to our deposition last night. Mrs. Clinton's attorneys filed opposition to our deposition tonight, and she also seeks to withhold a 6-page memo describing her lawyer's review and deletion of her emails. Tom Fitton also said that Judicial Watch will respond to her deposition opposition in 10 days and may file a motion to compel on email docs. Now, last December, Judge Royce Lamberth, a Reagan appointee, ordered senior Obama administration officials, including lawyers and aides from the Clinton State Department, to be deposed and or answer written questions under oath. The court ordered discovery into 3 specific areas: whether Secretary Clinton's email use of a private server was intended to stymie FOIA, whether the State Department's intent to settle this case in 2014 and early 2015 amounted to bad faith, and whether the State Department has adequately searched for records responsive to Judicial Watch's request. Now, if you recall, Judicial Watch broke the story on Hillary's private email server wide open through their FOIA lawsuits, and they've been pursuing this case aggressively ever since. Without Judicial Watch doing this tough lifting, without big gun Tom Fitton out there talking to the press, getting into court and trying to bring this stuff forward and putting these people under oath, we would know absolutely nothing about this. You guys, I myself donate to Judicial Watch because it's not our government that's doing the work. It is Judicial Watch and Tom Fitton who are putting this stuff together, connecting the dots, and bringing the information forward so that I can report on it. I really appreciate the work that Judicial Watch is doing, and that's why I support them myself. And finally, following up on yesterday's exclusive about Joe Biden and his dirty dealings, Rudy Giuliani is out there talking about this. We know that Rudy Giuliani is a great person to go to for information. He's always dropping these little hints all over the news. He says Biden was involved in very, very horrible corruption. There are documents, tapes, money laundering, and video. Now, former New York City Mayor and Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani joined Sean Hannity on Monday to discuss the growing Biden family Ukrainian scandal. Rudy went off on the Biden family and called their money embezzlement schemes one of the biggest American scandals. Now, let's go ahead and watch the clip here of Rudy and Sean talking about it.
The State Department called me and said, would I take a call from Mr. Yermak, who is number 2 or 3 to the president-elect, now the president. I was put together with Mr. Yermak. I talked to him. He gave me enormously important facts. I conveyed them all to the State Department. Unlike the media lies, fake news, I wasn't operating on my own. And I have to tell you, John, I knew this back in November. Somebody came to me and told me this entire fact pattern back in November. I think I told you in January.
You told me. Yes.
I told you that Biden was involved in very, very horrible corruption. Shocking to me.
What do you think of that tape?
I know people have a hard time. You know, I'm a Republican, but I would feel the same way if I was a Republican. A Republican vice president of the United States selling out the country this way, using his office for money, it's disgraceful. I mean, Spiro Agnew got thrown out of office for $10,000. This guy was collecting millions and billions. He's negotiating with China, and the kid gets $1.5 billion. I don't want to pick on the kid, but you give $1.5 billion to a guy that got thrown out of the military for drug addiction just a couple of days before?
Let me throw a couple of facts at you.
You give a drug addict $1.5 billion?
No.
Unless you're trying to bribe his father?
No background in private equity. No background with China.
Yeah, and
no background in Ukraine.
And a seriously disturbed person.
No background in Ukraine, no background in oil and gas,
in handling money
or energy.
China's not stupid. They don't put $1.5 billion in the hands of, the 3 partners in that firm? A kid who got thrown out of the military for being a drug addict, Kerry's stepson, and Whitey Bulger's nephew. I said Whitey Bulger. If that didn't jump out at this press corps, Whitey Bulger, what's he doing involved in this? This stinks to high heaven. It's a disgrace. It'll be one of the big American scandals when it's eventually uncovered because, as Mr. Schweiker said, it's a pattern. It's not just Ukraine. It's Ukraine and China, and they cash in wherever Joe is made the point man. You can't escape the pattern. And Sean, I told you this was going to happen.
You did.
It's going to get much worse. I guarantee it. Money laundering, clear money laundering. That's what drug dealers do. I investigated many of those. And they use Cyprus a lot. Why does this kid get paid? You send him a wire, right? You get paid by wire or by check. I get paid by wire or by check.
And they take out all my taxes,
My
Mr. Mayor.
money doesn't go to Latvia, Cyprus, the U.S., unless you are doing money laundering, which is a federal crime. Except if it's Joe Biden and Joe Biden's son.
Here's my question.
Because they have the Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton immunity from this corrupt press corps.
All right, we're going to stop there. Rudy Giuliani laid it out. He's known since November. He was asked by the State Department to go investigate this. They have everything on Joe Biden. You guys, if this does not result in some type of trouble for Joe Biden and his son, I don't know what possibly could. This is clear-cut evidence of money laundering and corruption. Joe Biden is at the heart of it. This is clearly the end of his presidential campaign. All right, guys, what do you think? Is it finally happening? Is someone going to get arrested? Are we going to see charges? I've heard people talking about Andrew McCabe getting off, Jim Comey getting off, and now Joe Biden getting off. This is the time, if I've ever seen it, for these people to go down for their absolutely despicable corruption and their selling out of America and her citizens. All right, guys, that is all that I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Wait, stop. Don't go anywhere yet. It's your boy, Red Pill 78. If you want to help support my channel, there's a couple of different things you can do. You can always support my sponsors. They are literally what's keeping me on the air. You can check out the links in the description below for different ways to support me, either just one time or on a monthly basis. You can also go check out my store. Get yourself a nice Red Pill 78 t-shirt, hoodie, coffee mug, sticker, phone case, pretty much anything you'd want. It's by my good friend Bree. Also, if you could, just remember to like and share this video. And if you're not subscribed, maybe think about subscribing, because that's another good way to let me know and let YouTube know that this is content worth keeping. All right, guys, thank you so much. And check out right here. There's a couple of links for videos that you might not have seen yet. All right, take it easy.